Hey, this is Tony Anderson again, 24 years in the business here in Colorado. I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about how to hire a listing agent. Things to ask, especially if it's your first time selling a home. These things are kind of important to have a good realtor. And by the way, do you know the difference between a realtor and an agent? Well, a realtor is an agent who has also joined a board of realtors and holds to a little bit higher level of accountability, continuing education, ethics classes, and updates on things. So it's not just an agent, it's an agent who's also joined a board. That's a realtor. 2 syllables, by the way, realtor, not realtor. So we hear people say that all the time, doesn't matter. But anyway, number 1, experience. It's important. I would have somebody that has at least 3 years experience. New people are great and I love them, but you need somebody who's gone through some difficult transactions, difficult people to work with, scenarios where there's been issues that they've resolved, because we're problem solvers. That's why you hire us. So experience is really important. So I would have minimum of 3 years, somebody that's taking continuing education classes. Also full-time. You want somebody who's full-time. You don't want them to have another job somewhere. You're right in the middle of a difficult transaction and you're trying to get a hold of them and they're at their other job. So not good. So that's really important. Also, beware of cheap agents, people who lowball. They just want to get the listing, so they'll tell you whatever you want to hear on the commission. It's important to know that if an agent cannot stand up for their own value, what makes you think they're going to stand up for your value when it comes to your home and negotiating for you at the inspection phase? So you don't just want somebody that's really cheap. They're usually working on volume and they're like a waiter with too many tables. Have you ever been to a restaurant and 3 people called in and they're always apologizing because everything took so long and they got it wrong? Waiter with too many tables is what those realtors are like, who work on volume. Because they just have to close a lot more deals to make a good amount of money when they just charge 1% or something ridiculous like that. So it's really important. How do you like to communicate? So that's an important one. Do you text? Do you want for an agent to always call you? There's just so many, especially with different age groups, it's different how people communicate nowadays. Some people just want a quick text. Hey, Bob, I just want to let you know that we got the inspection results in and let's go over it tonight. What time works for you? Something like that is important, but how do you communicate and how often do you communicate? It's really important because some people feel like, gosh, where's my agent? I haven't talked to him for a couple of weeks. But you also don't want someone who's calling you, every day, several times a day, unless you're in the middle of a really important transaction situation. So also, how do you determine value? Ask them, how do you come up with the value of my home? Do you just pull some comps? Do you just look at RPR, which is a program that realtors use that makes it look like they've done a ton of work? They just plugged in your address. Or Zillow and look at those estimates. Well, those aren't very accurate either. So how do they determine value? It's not price per square foot anymore. That doesn't work. There's a lot to it. And Cindy and I have our Certified Value Specialist designation, which means we study the same methodology that the appraisers use. And we know the things to look for, like distress sales and the fact that relos are not really a good comp to use because those sellers are getting the commissions paid for and the closing costs paid for, so they can sell a little bit lower and still net the same or more. And so you don't want to use those kind of comps. So there's just, ask your agent, how are they going to value my home? It's really important. And hopefully they have a couple of designations under their belt and experience communicating with appraisers. So walk me through the process of selling my home. That's a really good question. And then just let them talk. How do you sell my home? From showings to offers to negotiation, net sheets, inspections, title company, all the details. You know, you want to see a net sheet of what you're going to net after everything. Those people don't like bad surprises, just good ones. So walk me through the entire process from when we sign the contract to the day of closing. And are you going to be at closing? Some realtors don't show up at closing. Imagine that. So how are you going to market my home? Just going to stick a sign in the yard, put it in a multi-list, and just sit around and wait? Or are you going to be more proactive? You're going to take professional photos? Are you going to do drones, photography? What about social media, YouTube and Facebook? And there's just so much nowadays that people can do to market their homes. Ask what they're going to do with all of that, because that's really important. Why should I hire you? Okay, that's another good one. And that puts people on the spot, but so what? It's important. What makes you different? I've had 3 other people come by here, you could say, that want to sell my home, and they're all telling me pretty much the same thing. But what makes you different? So it's really important for people to care about you, to spend time with you, and to have the knowledge and the resources. What about moving? What about helping you move? But if you're in another state, you know, just watching this video, that's okay too. But ask them how they market the home and what makes you different. So that's important. Lastly, and maybe the most important, is do they have a clause in their listing contract that says that you can cancel at any time prior to being under contract without cost or obligation? We think trust has to be earned, and so it's important to say that. To say, what if we're not happy with your services? Can we cancel? Or are we going to be stuck? There are a lot of people that get a bad agent, and they're stuck in a binding contract for 6 months to a year, and you don't want that. So make sure you have them put in their contract that you can cancel anytime without cost or obligation prior to being under contract. Once you're under contract, it's a little different story, because he's representing you now in another party, and you're moving towards closing. So that's it, guys. That's what's really important to ask an agent. There's probably other things that you could ask, but those are really important ones that I would not forget to ask those things. If you enjoyed this video and this information, please hit the subscribe button here and the little bell notification, which will notify you when we have more things coming out. So I hope you enjoyed this, and have a great day. So even though the market outside is frightful, we make it more delightful. You need to know where to go. Let us know, let us know, let us know.